Hello, friends! On 4th of November 1914, the British ship Endurance crossed stormy seas and was moving towards the world's most dangerous and mysterious continent, Antarctica. A crew of 28 people was aboard this ship. The command was led by an explorer, Sir Ernest Shackleton. He desired to achieve that which no one else had ever before, to walk across the continent of Antarctica. You heard it right, friends. In a time with no smartphone, no GPS, no modern technology, in the temperatures as brutal as 50 degrees Celsius on this icy continent, in the midst of snowstorms, from one edge to the another, he wanted to cross this continent on foot. He planned to reach the coast of Antarctica on this ship through the Weddell Sea. Look at the map. Their plan was to land here exactly and start trekking to the South Pole, crossing which he would then walk across to the Ross Sea. In total, this trek spanned 2,900 kilometers. If everything went according to the plan, it would have taken about 120 days to finish. But how badly did this plan fail, and the struggles they endured, neither they nor you can imagine it, friends. On 5th of November 1914, Endurance reached a whaling station on the South Georgia Island. This was the last human settlement on their way. If you look at the map, this group of islands is present near the tip of South America. Just south of them is the protruding part of Antarctica. This is called the Antarctica Peninsula. Beside it is the Weddell Sea, a sea that is surrounded by Antarctica on three sides. Because of this, the ice cannot flow out easily, and there is a dense permanent layer of ice. The weather was bad that day, so were the conditions in the Weddell Sea. People told Shackleton to delay this mission, because continuing in those conditions would be very risky. But Shackleton insisted. It didn't matter to him, and they continued. 5th December 1914. Endurance kept moving forward, and soon their worst fears came true. The ice in Weddell Sea was much heavier and denser than expected, but Shackleton kept moving forward. 18th January 1915. After sailing along the edges of the ice for a while, the ship got stuck completely. A few days later, some crew members saw a 15 feet long chasm in the ice about 50 meters away from the ship. This chasm was their last hope to get free. For 3 hours, the ship was driven at full speed of the engines to try and get out of the ice. But the ship didn't even budge an inch. The crew members got out of the ship and tried to cut through the ice with the tools they had at hand, but they failed. Gradually, the ice sheet on which this ship was stuck was drifting further away from the land. The point on Antarctica where the crew was planning to land is called the Vosel Bay, but this ship was drifting further away. They drifted away 60 miles. The problem was that there was water between the ice sheet and the Vosel Bay, so the crew couldn't simply get down and walk to the bay. And on the other hand, the ship was stuck in the ice. Months and weeks passed by trying to get the ship out. They knew that winter was coming, and there, winter means 24 hours of darkness. For weeks and months, they won't get even a single minute of sunlight. Shackleton ordered everyone to spend the winter on the ship. But winter meant that it would get even more colder. There'd be snowfall and snowstorms. The ship was under increasing pressure of the ice. A photographer, Frank Hurley, was also present on this ship with his camera. These photos were taken by him then. In these, you can clearly see how the ice surrounding the ship was crushing it. On 30th September 1915, cracks were visible on the ship, but the crew hadn't lost hope. On 24th October 1915, at 6:45 p.m., suddenly, due to the immense pressure, the ice sheet broke apart and one of the pieces hit the ship. A heavy piece of ice broke Endurance's stern post, and water began to seep into the ship. The crew members set to work immediately. They tried to pump out the water. They kept at it for 3 days continuously. But the water was seeping in faster than it could be pumped out. The temperature was at 8.5 degrees Celsius. But the crew was neither scared nor nervous. Some of them tried to loosen the ice sheet surrounding the ship to reduce the pressure on it. But this didn't work either. Water kept on seeping into the ship, quite rapidly, while the pressure of the ice on the ship wasn't decreasing. Finally, Shackleton gave up and ordered the crew to leave the ship to deboard. Looking at the situation, a crew member, Tom McLeod, said that none of them would get back to their home. The ship had been stuck for more than 9 months. On 27 October 2015, a loud explosion was heard. When Shackleton turned back to witness something truly shocking, the ship's rear had suddenly risen 20 feet. The rudder and stern post broke apart. The ship's wooden parts started disintegrating, and the front of the ship was filled with water. Thankfully, the crew members had already abandoned the ship by then. After a while, the water turned into ice, and because of this added weight, the front of the ship began sinking. As the ship sunk, so did Shackleton's dream of crossing Antarctica by foot. But something much precious was at stake now. Could they return alive? The crew had no radio, no telephone, no means to contact the rest of the world. They were stuck on an ice sheet in the Antarctic Ocean, an ice sheet floating in the water. On this sheet, there was a big rock of ice. The crew set up their camp there. First, they decided to check a count of their belongings. What did they have with them? How much food and water did they have? They found that they had 3 small boats, 1 sledge with which they could move on the ice sheet, some important personal items of the crew, and about 1 month's ration, only 1 month's food. There was only a little place to sleep at night. So many had to sleep on the ice. Most of them slept close together to avoid being frozen. It was nearly impossible for a ship passing by to find them there. Because they were in the Antarctic Ocean, no other ship ventured there. It had been over a year since they last saw other humans. The rest of the world didn't even know for sure if they were alive or not. Neither could they send any messages, nor did they expect any help. Shackleton had only one thing: faith on his skills and experience. But how long could this faith keep him and his crew alive? What would they do once they used up the food? Setting up a camp on the ice wasn't an infallible solution either, because the ice could break at any time. They needed land. Shackleton ran his calculations and estimations. He believed that the nearest land was the Paulet Island, about 550 kilometers across the icy sea, an island at the tip of Antarctica.